This is a love story. Now, I know what you are thinking. How could it be? How could a love story end with where I'm currently at? How could any good fairy tale have the happily ever after be the heroine getting treatment for mental health? That's the thing, though. This is a love story, but it's not a fairy tale. And this point where I'm at right here isn't the ending. It's only the very beginning. I have learned that I have the power to make my own story. I can control my beginning, my middle, and my happily ever after. It was a power that I never thought I had. Honestly, I never thought I had much power at all. I never saw myself as a powerful person. I saw myself as someone who just tried really, really hard. I viewed myself as imperfection personified. From constantly focusing on those imperfections, I created this idea that perfection was the goal. Perfection was going to fix all the problems. Perfection was going to give me the life I wanted. Perfection was going to save you. When I couldn't reach those levels of perfection, when I failed time and time again, the problems we faced had, in my mind at least, a direct correlation to the fact that I just wasn't good enough. I wasn't perfect. I wasn't trying hard enough. I wasn't doing enough. I wasn't loving you the way I should have been. I was failing. You had the bluest eyes I had ever seen in my life. You were quiet, reserved, bashful, charming, perfect. Strong features and a crooked smile that I found just utterly endearing. Your voice was calm, unsure at times, with a stutter that came out when you were nervous. Your forehead wrinkled with exaggerated expressions. You had this nervous habit of clearing your throat and forcefully pulling in air when you spoke in front of people. When you told stories, you had a way of rambling and apologizing for not getting to the point. And others teased you. But I held onto every word, just hungry for more. You shared your deepest secrets with me, and I saw them firsthand come into play. You had no confidence in yourself, and you saw yourself as a screw-up because you faltered on finding your path. You felt you were a disappointment to your family and largely pushed to the side in favor of your sisters. Your social anxiety often completely crippled you to the point heavy drinking was the only way you could bring yourself to social events, to parties, and to just be around other people. Your anxiety caused procrastination, suffocation in your own life, and pushed you to seek any other thing that would make you feel good, confident, and in control. You saw yourself as awkward and lost. I saw you as one of the most beautiful people I'd ever met, who had no idea his potential and what he had to give. I was addicted to you. You were all encompassing to me. But your addictions were elsewhere. I felt we complemented each other. I was the outgoing extrovert who loved being around people, who wanted everyone happy and having a good time. You were more serious, realistic. You kept me grounded when my head was in the clouds, and I was able to occasionally get you out of your shell and enjoy the world around you. I had a vision that our love could get us through anything. I knew a relationship was work, and I was ready to make it my full-time job. I wanted to give you the love that you told me you never got. I wanted you to see yourself how I saw you. I became your biggest fan, your head cheerleader, your coach. I encouraged performing on stage to help with your speech and confidence. I helped train your body for physical fitness. I encouraged continuing education to help you find your path and spent hours looking for jobs for you. When things got messy, I cleaned it up. Finding you passed out drunk on lawns, I made sure I got you home safe into your bed with water on your nightstand and me sleeping on the floor to make sure you were okay. When your procrastination got the better of you, I wrote papers for you in college so you could graduate. When your parents wouldn't help you get a car, I asked my dad, who thought you walked on water, if he could help. I worked extra hours at a pizza place to pay for the tires the car needed while carrying a full course load. When you said your anxiety couldn't get you a job, I wrote your resume and I applied to positions. The love I felt and the vision I had of you trumped any rational thought in my head. Without knowing, I made you my project. and I fell even deeper in love with the possibility of what could be. instead of what was right in front of my face. I remember the first time I went on your computer to look something up and was shocked at the website that popped up. I was uncomfortable, decided, as always, to broach the subject with humor. You brushed it off as nothing, and I believed you, quickly pushing the thought from my head. The first time I walked in on you, I was mortified. I was embarrassed. I was heartbroken. But I immediately turned my thoughts and feelings to you, how you were feeling and how ashamed you feel at that moment. You were more important than me. I was strong. I could figure this out. You were vulnerable, damaged, unloved, and I was willing to swallow my pain if I could take yours away. That day set the precedent of our entire life together. I could swallow and push my pain down as long as you were okay and I could make you better. I fully thought I would address these things within myself later. I was strong enough to do that. But right then and now, I had to fix you and heal you. But the later for me never came, and I continued pushing and piling hurt on top of hurt, disassociating myself from everything. You confessed that your addiction started at a very young age, that your parents would catch you at the computer and never address it because, in your words, they never addressed anything. The movies and images would take up hours of your day. The numerous daily sessions of self-pleasure would leave you raw and with nothing left to give to a living, breathing female who wanted nothing more but intimacy with you. I began to hate my body, my face, my breasts, my weight, my hair. I criticized every moment, every sound, every expression I made during moments of passion because I knew it didn't compare to the images you loved so much. I would look at your internet history and saw the increasing trends of darker and more violent imagery. I tried to fulfill those fantasies for you the best that I could, but it left me shallow inside. You said to me, I like when you struggle. I like when you say no. Sex was painful, quick, and with very little emphasis on my enjoyment. I was someone who was just there as you self-pleased yourself, just a warm body underneath you. My answer to your addiction was to try and fix it. If I could be around you all the time, surely you wouldn't have an opportunity to hurt me. I dropped classes if it meant you had unsupervised free time. I quit jobs when our schedule didn't line up perfectly. I dropped friends, clubs, and activities that had kept me away from the house. I was kicked out of my sorority and dropped as a bridesmaid for a friend's wedding because I kept missing important events. I turned down opportunities. I would disappear from my family for weeks on end. I gave up everything that stopped me from being hyper-vigilant to your addiction. Whenever I wasn't at the house, I checked the internet history or the television ordering to have my biggest fears confirmed. The moment I wasn't there, any promises you made, our mantras were repeated, just fell to the wayside for the carnal visions of strangers on the internet. The more I tried, the more I loved, the more I gifted and complimented, it didn't matter. It couldn't make you stop, and it couldn't create the intimacy I so greatly needed. I began to search for other things that gave me love. Working, shopping, food, limiting food, obsessive working out, pets. I created this perfect image of us to friends, family, social media, and I used that as an escape. It was my own personal pornography. An image of a relationship I always wanted with a man I thought was the most beautiful person in the entire world. How could something so fair be so cruel? As the years went on, you hid things less. I would roll over and see you on the phone looking at these strangers, these manufactured images, as your living, breathing wife laid next to you. Our house started to fall into shambles, the yard terribly overgrown because your anxiety and addiction wouldn't let you function. You would pleasure yourself in work, knowing good and well what getting caught would mean to us. You forgot my birthday because you were too busy finding a store that sold the videos and magazines you desperately needed, ignoring any and all needs I had. I was dying each day. I found myself begging for you to stop and then finally convincing myself I was okay with it. I mean, you were providing for me. We had good moments. No marriage is perfect. You were coming home to me every night. I stopped asking. I stopped looking through your phone. I stopped rolling over in bed to confirm what I already knew was happening right next to me. I lost the energy to try and control, to fix, to heal. I lost the energy for everything. Through the years you tried, you would take breaks from the hardcore imagery and instead focus on the Instagram girls. I suppose I should have been thankful for that, but it almost hurt me worse. These girls were real and could answer messages and hook you in. It was more acceptable to look at those images at any point in time, no matter where you were. Work, out with friends, at races, sitting on the couch with me, as we laid in bed. Your anxiety was still there, and that anxiety finally turned to anger. You fell in love with my confidence, but as the years went on, it was what you started to despise in me the most. You were tired of the errand show. You resented my wanting to help people, and said my empathy made me gullible and weak. My bleeding heart enraged you, and you took that rage out on Doors, our dog, and me. You resented the fact we didn't have children. I took that away from you. The fact was, I told myself I couldn't bring a child into a household with an addict. I told myself if he ever got clean, if he ever stopped, we could start our family. Then as the years of pornography and sex addiction continued, I got comfortable in a child-free life. But it was just one more thing you could resent me for. I didn't want our daughter learning what self-worth of a woman was from a daddy who was addicted to pornography. I didn't want our son thinking those actions were okay and treat his partner the same way. During our arguments, you said my crying was a manipulation. You hated when I cried, and when I started, you told me you would give me something to cry about and would get more hateful and cruel. I spent years trying to teach myself not to cry. I would ask therapists to teach me how. I would Google that question over and over again in an attempt to teach myself how to stifle those feelings. One of our last encounters, you had a friend record you telling me how my tears meant nothing to you. As I stood in front of you, my heart breaking. You now had your own personal trauma porn to watch whenever you wanted to. At any point in time, you could watch that video and see your masterpiece play out. Hiding all this from everyone took its toll on me. The people I did share our story with never told me what I wanted to hear. The priest who did our premarital counseling told me to pray for you and that God would heal your addiction. So I did. And when the healing didn't happen, I lost my faith in the church. Our first marriage counselor told me to set strict boundaries, and I tried, but you found ways around them. Figuring out how to break the parental controls you begged me to put in place on your phone and tablet. Our second therapist, who was also your personal therapist, told me to leave you. I said this was a love story, and I still mean it. It still is. I can look back and say that I loved someone with every ounce of my being. I found someone who I wanted nothing but the best for, even through these hard moments. Even as friends started pulling away from us as your anger became too much whenever someone dared to have different political views than you. Even when I was left shivering on the floor of a hotel room as you were passed on the bed, as I tried to make sense of what just happened to me by the hands of the person who was supposed to protect me. Even as I caught my footing after being pushed in front of a room full of people, including my best friend. Even as I hid in our bathroom crying on the floor with a razor in my hand, desperately calling friends to help me talk me out of suicide. Even as you cleared out bank accounts and left me with nothing. There is a love and understanding. I understand now that I could not heal someone who didn't want to heal themselves. The real love story here is me. It's me wanting to love myself and me learning that where I am right now is the beginning of a new chapter of that love story. I will always be in love with that tall, shy boy with the bluest eyes I had ever seen. The boy who stuttered when he was nervous, who told 2 long stories and was patient and kind. I know now that boy no longer exists. Maybe he never existed in the first place.